The first thing you should know about the book is, if you haven't read the book, and has anybody read the book, the new one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, enough that we can spoil it for the others. It's a really horny book. Thank you. Look at the nodding. So when Charlie, my girlfriend, was reading it, she would look at the manuscript and she'd look over at me and she'd like read a little bit. She'd look at me and she's like, "What are you, 12? You're so mature." I am not. Shut up. Wait until they make Flintstone Viagra. I will burn you down.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so you know. But in addition to, I didn't set out to write a Shakespeare book. I set out to write a book about a fool, because it appeared to initially, the fool was the only character in the court that could speak truth to power and not lose his life for it. And I was feeling, for some reason, over the last few years, that the only time anybody was telling me the truth was when it was a comedian, like Jon Stewart or Letterman or somebody. So I thought, well, I want to write about a fool, because that would be an interesting sort of juxtaposition between comedy and death. And then, but I didn't initially think that I was going to do Shakespeare. And I met with my editor, Jennifer Burrell, in New York, and I said, "Jen, I want to do a book about a fool, but I don't know whether to just do a generic fool or to do Lear's fool." And she said, "Oh, do Lear's fool." And then that was the end of it for her. And I had to go learn Shakespeare, and all of it. I'm not an English major. I'm not even sure what I majored in. I'll figure it out one day. I haven't declared yet, but keep going on. So anyway, in addition to that, I went to England to research this, to look at medieval stuff, because they keep it there. And I know that you guys are probably all world travelers, and you all know this already, but bear with me, because I've been poor most of my life, and I'm just able to, I've only had a passport a few years. So anyway, in England, people say sorry a lot. They just, sorry, everywhere you go. There's like, if you make eye contact, just sorry. And you basically can walk around London all day and be apologized to by English people. And at first, they're like, sorry, and you're like, oh, it's okay. But then by the end of the day, they're like, sorry, and you're like, you should be. So, be aware that that's going to happen. I found out we all know they drive on the left in England, but I didn't know why they drive on the left in England. So an English friend of mine said, well, it's because in the days of yore, which is evidently a long time ago, the swordsmen, most of the swordsmen were right-handed, and they had those big long swords, and they would stick out when they were on horseback to the left. And so if you passed on the right, the way we drive, then the guy going the other way, his sword would hit your sword, and you'd have to stop and fight, and nothing ever got done. And the other place that they drive on the left is Japan, because the samurais had the swords and whatnot. So that's why they drive on the left. And it makes it easier to run over Americans, because we totally look the wrong way when we're crossing the street. We step out and we're like this, and they're like... Be careful. They're polite, but they're sneaky. In England, elevators talk. I thought for years that Douglas Adams made that up, and it was, wow, that's brilliant. But then I went there, and they were like, you have arrived at the second floor. Sorry. As do the trains. If you're on the tube there, it'll say, mind the gap. Sorry. I suppose if you don't mind the gap and you're being dragged down the tracks, your head beating on the rails, sorry. Told you about the gap. He didn't make that up. Despite everything else being polite in England, the squirrels are really demanding. They expect treats. Like if you're walking, they'll just come down an 1,100-year-old oak tree and just like, give me a biscuit. I mean, it's a squirrel talk. It has that accent, and they're right there, and so I found out that you just go, sorry, which may be where all that started, was just demanding squirrels. The dogs, if you're the dog's bollocks, it's a good thing. Now, I knew that, but I didn't know why, and we were doing this virtual book meeting, and then one of our board member guys is English, and he said, "Do you know why the dog's bollocks is a good thing?" And I was like, "No," and he goes, "Well, because he licks them all day, so they must be good." And I said, "I will take your word for that." But it does explain the design of a English bulldog. If you've ever been behind an English bulldog going away from you, there's a couple of stars to that show. So they, it's in, it's important to them. But if you're the dog's breakfast, you've bollocksed something up. So that's the dog's breakfast bad, dog's bollocks good. Make a note. In England, sweaters are called jumpers. People who jump up and down repeatedly are called sweaters. Pants are called trousers. Panties are called pants. If someone knocks you up, they're just coming around to your house. Good to know. And if they use a rubber, they are erasing something. So, again, good to know. I told this in Portland the other night, and a guy came up and he said, "I teach with an Englishman who was using a dry erase board, and he got to the point where he needed to dry erase something, and he turned around and said, 'Do you have a fuzzy rubber?'" Just imagine college students checking their wallets. But that is really what you call a dry erase board eraser, is a fuzzy rubber. Probably won't need that, but in an emergency.